Okay, perfect. So we are live with Bethany Stachenfeld, the CEO and the co-founder of Sendspark. So really excited to have you on, Bethany. We're here to talk about all things founder-led marketing, and we're also here to talk a lot about your company as well and where it came from.
Amazing.
So yeah, maybe we should just start off with that. I was also telling Bethany too backstage that I was taking a look at one of her posts. That I think this actually made my day, to be honest. That somebody sent out zero to someone sent out 159,000 messages outbound. I don't think that that's the way SendSpark does it, but yeah, I think that there's a sweet spot in the middle of that.
Yeah, we
So
cut people off at 140,000 messages for one person.
I'm really hoping that was a joke, to be honest, but I'm not sure anymore. But yeah, so Bethany, can you tell me a little bit about your company and how you started off, even just having the idea of starting your own company?
Yeah, definitely. I was always interested in startups. Even before starting SunSpark, I worked at two other startups, actually with my current co-founder at both of those companies. And the last company we're at was a video platform. So like think video messages, but really for teachers to create like short course content and share with students, or even for like corporate companies to create training material. But I was on the marketing side, so I was using a lot of video for outreach and just found it was super effective. But with the other video platforms like Loom, and similar companies, you're just not able to scale the video the way that you can scale an email. And if you're used to using, like Outreach Sales Opt or Instantly, Smart Lead, Lemlist, like all these email tools, if you can't do that with video, it feels very restrictive because you're like, okay, well, I have a nice video template. I don't want to re-record this 100,000 times, or 159,000, depending on who you are. But yeah, so we thought, why not make video as scalable as email? And we started a bit ago, like maybe 5 years at this point. And so originally with SenseSpark, you could change like layers in the video and text in the video to personalize for different people. But over the last 2 years, we've been able to add a lot of AI to actually change your voice, what you're saying, and change the lips to make it look like you're saying anything. So you can create these like personalized videos, and then one video could say, "Hi Jordan," "Hi Bethany," "Hi Brandon," depending on who you're sending it to. And we do try to make it fast and scalable. So even if you are doing high volume outreach, we have customers that are doing hundreds of thousands a month because, maybe it's not even all outbound, right? But like with inbound and, if you're doing a lot of emails, you could put video on every email and make it personalized.
I see. And so then, what was the idea behind video specifically? Why video over making it text?
I mean, video is just a good way to connect, especially if you think of like you're getting so many emails, everyone kind of sounds the same. Video can help you, one, like connect like a human, like you see a face, you're able to just feel like a bit more connected on a personal level, but also you're able to show things. So especially for SaaS companies where you have a platform, being able to show a key moment of like what you can help people do, it is really powerful. Also, there's a lot of research that video helps with retention. So if someone, watches your video, they're more likely to remember your message than reading a text. And I wouldn't say like every one of your communication bits has to be video all the time. Like, of course, there's a time to do text and audio messages and everything else. But if video is not like part of your outreach strategy, you're probably just missing out because, it has a lot of benefits.
And even hopping over to like your LinkedIn strategy too, because I started following you too after I saw an interview with, I can't remember the guy's name, but I saw an interview of you, and I saw that you were posting a lot on LinkedIn for starters. So how does what you're doing right now with SenseSpark kind of tie into posting on LinkedIn, and why did you even have the idea to start posting on LinkedIn in the first place?
Yeah. I don't remember how I started, to be honest. I think I just kind of I did it and then did it some more. But what I like about posting on LinkedIn is you're sharing like thoughts as they come and like a lot of like regular small updates. So I think as a founder, marketer, anything, you can often feel like, oh, it's not ready to share. But then you kind of wait forever, and then by the time it like is ready, it's like old news because you've had it for like 3 months in beta, getting the kinks out. So what I try to do with LinkedIn is like post all the time, and post like smaller things and not try to wait till things are perfect. And I think that's kind of the point of building in public, whatever your platform is, if it's YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. It's just about like sharing things as they come, and not being afraid to be like wrong or to change your mind later. Like, we decided to test a free plan a few weeks ago. And so, I was like, well, we don't know if we're going to keep it. Like, should we post about it or should we not? And we just decided, what, let's post about it. And then if we change our mind and take it away, we'll post about that too. And like, things are going to change, but that doesn't mean that you have to be like locked into what you did once forever. So that's why I do like the informal sharing of communication versus making everything a press release that you can't go back on.
Yeah, and I think that there's something also super like daunting or something super scary about posting without kind of having your PR team approve it. Did you kind of ever go through that, especially when you were posting through LinkedIn?
Well, it's kind of a joke that someone on my team is my PR team. He's made me delete things. He's like, you can't post that. I'm like, okay, I'll take it down. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe if you're like really important, people are going to be like screenshotting your stuff. But I'm like, yeah. I'm not afraid to be wrong. Like, that's the thing is like, if I say something and I'm wrong or like, I shouldn't have said it, like I'll come out and like fix that later. But I just believe it's better to do that than to not say anything. And I actually think that helps you build more trust with people to be more open. Because if you rarely say anything and then something does come out, like all of a sudden that is like 100% your image. But when you're constantly communicating, one thing is just like a piece of that brand that you're creating.
Yeah, you can overthink it a lot. And I guess also with even when founders are posting on Sendspark or anything like video content related. I remember like the first video that I posted on my YouTube channel or even on my Instagram, I had to like reshoot that piece so many times because I'm like, oh, there's something that I said that it just didn't sound right or didn't come off right. Do you also think that that's a really big impediment to founders as well, but also people who are just creating content in order to kind of get the more natural feel? Everything really has to be polished.
Yeah. I think that is hard and something that you want to figure out a way around, but the answer isn't always to force yourself to do it. It's just to think of a way that like you're comfortable doing it. And if you look at like me versus my co-founder, a lot of the posts that I make are either like kind of long, like thought written posts where I'm like sharing my thoughts because I write a lot, like I always have. Or they're more like tutorial videos where, maybe a customer asks for a video and I make it for them, but figure I'll share it forever and publicly. And that's like my style. And I feel really comfortable communicating that way. But like, you're never going to see me doing like a selfie video. Like, I just don't like that. And I'm like, maybe I will, but like, I'm not going to force myself to do it because it would take too long and I wouldn't enjoy it. And then if you look at my co-founder, like he's a designer. He's a really visual person. Like his posts are more like images and GIFs, but like, I wouldn't expect him to be posting like a tutorial video of himself. Like, I don't think he'd like that, or doing like a long written post because it's just not how he like typically likes to communicate or share information. So I think you just got to figure out like, how do you like to communicate and feel comfortable communicating it, and don't just do the thing that you see other people do and think that's going to work for you. Cause like, or maybe try it, but if it doesn't, then find something else and don't try to just force yourself to get over it. That's not really a good way to do things.
Yeah, it's kind of like finding what your strengths are and then it's kind of like catering to that, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and know that like whenever someone's like, the algorithm loves this, like they're probably wrong half the time. I mean, like some things are definitely true, like links are bad. You can see that in yourself, but like, people are like, oh, vertical video, oh, this, like, and it's like, maybe, but like, I don't know. Then I posted a vertical video. I didn't do any better than my horizontal videos. Like, and I'm not saying it doesn't for some people, but just don't feel like you have to do things because other people say you have to do it. Just figure out the best way to communicate with your community.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the biggest thing going on right now too. Even for myself too. I was trying to like crack the algorithm for so long, especially when I started off with LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is, in my opinion, one of the things that was like the most difficult to understand. Because I'm like, I heard, and like, correct me if I'm wrong with this, I don't know if you experienced the same thing, but so many people that I've heard, their viewership dropped, or the impressions dropped on their post at the beginning of this year. Did it happen as well with you?
I noticed it getting like slow in the summer, but I also noticed it just like, it's just different. Like it drips out over a longer period of time. And even on my feed, posts will pop up and I'm like, this was posted 3 weeks ago. Why is it showing up in my feed today? Yeah. So, and that's another reason why you can't just try to like predict the algorithm. Like it changes. Also, like, more impressions isn't always better. Like, LinkedIn drives a lot of business to Sendspark, but like our impressions are not like so ridiculously high. And I have a friend who started posting videos and he's in a more like general space, and his impressions, like he's getting millions of impressions on his videos, but it doesn't really drive that much business. And so I think, don't be like fooled by impressions being everything. It's like, are you communicating the right things with the right people? Are you helping people like feel like they understand why you're building and what your product can like do for them? I think it's good to think about, just don't try to do what other people are doing. You got to figure out what really works for you.
And even now that you mentioned kind of like the funnel or like driving business into Sendspark specifically with LinkedIn, well, first off, maybe I should have started off with this, but how long have you been posting on LinkedIn, and what is like the benefits or the major benefits that you've seen by posting on LinkedIn?
I've probably been posting for like a year and a half. So it wasn't like this past December, but the December before that, I remember posting like a year-end update, and then after that, just try to be more or less consistent. And benefits are like, I mean, it's just an example of marketing and like brand creation where people are not always like ready to buy. I think email outreach is the best way when people are like in market ready to buy, like that's when you want to reach out. But like with LinkedIn, it's like you're just trying to make sure people know who you are. I want it to be when you think about AI personalized videos for sales, you're thinking of Sendspark. So, it's really just about like not hard selling, but making sure that we're getting out our thoughts in the space. And that if you are ready to buy, you're going to think about us. Or if you see someone else say they're looking for a video solution, you've seen Sendspark enough to like tag them. So, I think that that's a benefit. And then it's also nice to just be connected with more people. So, a lot of the LinkedIn, it's like posting, connecting. But we don't do so much like hard selling on LinkedIn. I do post a lot of tutorials though, and of like cool use cases. So I'm hoping like people might see that and be like, oh, this is a cool use case. I should try it out for me, and automate some video outreach. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's something we put a ton of time in though, or even like that intentional about. It's just trying to kind of keep it up, and I think that works as well. Like you can tell when I post that I'm like writing the post, I think, and I see other companies where it's like pretty clear that the marketing team's writing the post from the CEO, and it just doesn't really get across the same way.
Yeah, sometimes like the misspelling, not from you, but like for me, I've had a lot of like misspelling on LinkedIn, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep rolling with it. I don't think it's like worth taking it down or editing it. I'll just keep it up. It was also something that you mentioned in terms of the emails too. So can you also talk a little bit about that? This veers a little bit away from LinkedIn, but you said that sending emails is still correct me if I'm wrong, but still like one of the best outbound methods.
I mean, I think if you're doing email right, it's super powerful. Deliverability is harder than it has been, but assuming you like are doing best practices there and you're getting in the inbox, every single CEO and executive has to go through their email all the time, right? Like you just have to. You can't. I mean, maybe you get to the point where you have an EA or someone doing it, but like you have to be on top of your email. So if you're able to send a good email, you're gonna get it seen. But that's by getting the timing right is more important than ever.
And even
the timing of the message.
Fair, but even like sending have you even seen the conversions differ? The difference between like the DMs that someone would shoot out through LinkedIn versus emails as well? Like which one have you seen better if you've been like experimenting with both of them?
It depends on the industry. If you're reaching out to people in sales or recruiting, LinkedIn's amazing because same thing. People are on it and they're going to check their messages all the time. I remember I was hanging out with a friend of mine who's a doctor, and we were talking to someone, and I remember he was like, oh, we should connect on LinkedIn. And he like gave his phone to my friend who's a doctor, and she was like, I don't know what this is. Right? Like, and I'm like, it's LinkedIn. She's like, oh yeah, I had to make one a couple years ago in college. Like if your audience is on LinkedIn, it's great. And also we work with a lot of people who their audience is on Instagram. Like if you sell to small businesses, Instagram or Facebook, super powerful for the same reason. But yeah, so if there's another platform, that's great. You just got to know like what your buyer is using and make sure that you are where they are.
And I've asked a lot of CMOs too this question, now that you kind of also mentioned the other platforms, that big fan of Refine Labs, Chris Walker, very big fan of his stuff. And one of the things that I really follow is just kind of like his omnipresence, that just because you run like a Google ad or a Facebook ad doesn't mean that somebody converted through that Google or Facebook ad. The whole thing of, if you're familiar like with the dark social that he talks about.
Yeah.
How much do you guys use that at Sendspark, and how much are you even an advocate of that?
Well, okay, so I think in an ideal world where you have more time or a full marketing team, like you want to be everywhere. Like that's the goal. But if you don't, and let's say it's like a founder and you're like, hey, this is like literally like a tiny percent of what we do, then I'd say it actually is better to go like far deeper on one channel than to try to be everywhere on all the channels. Because even the way you talk, the way you post, who you connect with, like that's going to be unique platform to platform. And so I think it makes sense, like if your buyers are on LinkedIn, do LinkedIn really well before you add a second channel. And then same, like if your buyers are on Instagram, go all in and try to do one channel, amazing. And then from there expand. And the benefits of that are like, it's just easier to do well in one place than scattering yourself. Reposting content doesn't always work. It can for some people, and it may be you depending on who you sell to, but it sometimes can feel wrong if you take something that from LinkedIn and post it on Twitter, or vice versa. So I'd say you go deep before you go wide, and then also know that like if you go really deep on one channel, people will know you from that channel, and then they'll also represent you in the dark web a little bit. So it's like, of course you totally should do that, but I think if you're talking to a founder who's trying to do like founder-led branding, it just might be too much for them to take on right away.
Yeah, so it's kind of just like knowing what platform like your ICP is on, and then just going deep into that platform and owning that one as best as you can as well.
Yeah, and then adding a second and then a third, and then, because it'll be slightly different, like something a lot easier to add a second channel than starting from scratch. But I just want to be like, hey, we're going to do everything on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter to start. You're biting off more than you can chew.
Yeah, fair point. And with I was following with I think he's the COO of LinkedIn, Daniel Shapiro, I think is his name. And a lot of times the things that I see he does is kind of like the things that work and on and off. But how much do you like also take inspiration from other people in order to see, hey, this is maybe something that I should be like leaning towards in terms of like, first off, like the ICP that you're targeting, and also like the style that you're targeting? Or do you kind of just do your own thing?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think I'm sure I like get a lot of inspiration from other people, but it's not so intentional. I think where I intentionally get inspiration from is like sales calls. Or like onboarding calls or something like that, like talking with our customer. I'm always trying to figure out like what is it that they're asking or trying to learn, or like what are their problems, like what like insights can I take from that to share, or like even and that would be what I do all the time. And then also like in-person insights if I'm meeting with other people in the industry, like what conversations are coming up, what are people like asking about, and what can I share that people would either connect with, resonate with, or learn from. So I'm sure I don't want to be like, oh, I don't get inspiration from other people. Like, I'm sure I do, but I'm not like actively trying to find recipes for success. I'm more like trying to find insights that are interesting and then sharing them.
Perfect. And the other thing too also comes with video, because again, I'm a big advocate of video. I built followings mostly on video because I love how it touches like those 7 hours as well, or 7 touch points that you need for like a conversion. I don't know how true or false that is. I don't know it like to a T, but at least with video, it's something that I'm a really big fan of. That's why I like really like what you guys are doing with Sendspark as well. Do you find that as well? Like in order to make some kind of like big conversion, and depending on how big the conversion is of the ticket, depends on how many touch points people need to have, and does it also depend like what kind of touch points they are, video versus text and so on?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely, right? Like how they say you need 7 touch points, my guess is it's more, but it doesn't necessarily mean 7 emails all sent at the same time. you want to feel like you know the brand, and it's like everywhere. And even now, like we're looking at buying something new, and that, you know, I immediately reached out to 3 companies that have been like keeping me on their radar for the last 5 years, but now we're ready. And I probably won't even look at anyone new because I'm like, I just, you know, these people, it builds trust. So I do think video goes a longer way than text, partially because it's memorable, but also because it's like a person and you connect a little better. You've just like seen them. So I think what's hard for companies to do is sometimes you're like, oh, well, I'll just send out a 12-step sequence and that will work. And I mean, maybe, but you know, if you can be a little bit more omni-channel there and maybe have some emails, have some social touches, even retargeting ads, I think are really good and they're really cheap. And to help just add more exposure, touch points, because you want people to feel like they're seeing you everywhere, even if you're only everywhere to a really small target market.
Yeah, it's kind of the thing of like, you don't have to be everything to everyone, just a small demographic.
Yeah.
And in terms of even niching down, because you said at the beginning that you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were in the educational space originally?
I worked at a video company in the educational space.
But at least for Sendspark, when they were starting off, did you find a specific ICP that you're like, this is my exact target audience, boom, boom, boom?
Yeah, Sendspark has always been like sales and marketing, and predominantly for like software, but we're actually doing a lot more with other industries now. But for a long time, we were really just like software, sales, and marketing.
And were you ever, because I think I saw a podcast of the Lululemon guy who invented Lululemon, and he got like very, very specific on who his ICP was, like to a degree that he was like naming their birthdays were like in September. And I'm like, that's a lot, but if he built if he built $1 billion brand, maybe there's something there.
I don't know. I also imagine it's like a little bit different in the consumer space because like, you know, we're selling to companies, but like there's different buyers at the company, different users. Like I think you want to understand who your buyer is and like the different roles. But like even at Sendspark, like there's, you know, there might be one customer, but of that customer, you know, you have different people who are in the like different roles of setting it up, right? You got your economic buyer, you got your champion, you have your actual users.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're not like targeting based on birthday.
No, I assume a lot of people aren't, but I feel like if it was $1 billion brand, maybe there was something there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always get that flack, I think, from people that we work with, that I want to get like super specific, and I was thinking, it's like, oh yeah, maybe we can do like B2B SaaS companies, and then I have like some pushback from people that they're like, B2B SaaS is still like very, very specific, and then other people that say B2B SaaS isn't specific enough. Is there something that you try and avoid, like not saying?
Well, I think you're kind of right, but I think there's what you need to think about is what's going to help you deliver a really good like solution and then work backwards. So like, for example, for us, it's really important what CRM you use and what email automation platform you use, because you're taking the Sendspark videos and then you're like automatically creating them and automatically sending it out. And so we work really well with like HubSpot and Salesforce and high level actually. But like if you're using a niche CRM, like you're not going to get the same data. And then same with email platforms. Like we have really good integrations with like Instantly, Smartly, Lemlist, Outreach Sales Loft. But like every day I learn about a new email platform and I'm like, this is a small one where like you're the only one who's using it. Like we're not going to build an integration for you. It's not going to be like the ultimate experience. And we can be like, well, we set something up using our API and webhooks, but like it's just not a good fit for us. So I think that matters like more than, you know, I think when making your target profile, it's more than just like the personal traits of the company or the business, but it's like, what is their use case? What is their problem? What's the workflow going to look like? And like that could be very specific based on what you sell, and how what you're selling is supposed to fit in with their daily life and solve their problem. So I see what they're saying is like B2B SaaS can be both narrow and specific depending on how you look at it. But maybe that's your industry, and then within the industry you're also looking at tech integrations or team size or, you know, other things like that.
Yeah. So maybe even like the KPIs is something that is probably would like take precedence over that, as in like seeing when somebody's buying, if somebody's like in the market.
Yeah, that, and like I would even say like there's some things that like you just have to know what's important for you to make a sale. Because like for us, also, and probably for most companies, like there's some companies that are really good at adopting new tools, even like big companies, because they empower their employees. And I'll give Salesforce some credit. So Salesforce is a huge company. We have tons of teams that at Salesforce that use Sendspark because they're allowed to just go buy their software, set it up, and use it. And then there's much smaller companies we worked with that have a lot of red tape. And so like only certain people are able to do stuff and admin, and it just makes adopting new technology very hard. And so like things like that I think are more important in like the target demographic than like other things, you know, even though you might not think of it, it's just like, are they able to adopt new tools? So I think you have to think about like what, and you don't have to do it all at first, but like, you know, every maybe quarter you should be reviewing what companies were able to get successful really fast, what do they have in common, and then how can we apply that to our targeting for future companies. And it, you know, it's more than just industry and more than just the problem, it's like their ability to adopt new software.
That's also pretty interesting too, because it's kind of like, I don't know if back in the day, maybe I haven't been in the game long enough, but back in the day, like people like would hire maybe like marketing companies, or maybe they would hire software tools just to do like one specific task. But now I'm at least seeing like subjectively kind of like an overall holistic approach of like evaluating the business as a whole rather than selling this one compartmentalized feature. Do you see that coming in more often too?
I don't know if I don't really understand, like they're looking at companies that can do more than one thing.
Maybe it's like they're acting more like consultants, I would say, rather than acting just as like, hey, can you create us like content? And like just keeping it to that feature? Or do you think that they're kind of coming into the business acting as consultants and saying, yeah, well, you have like this technology and this technology and this technology, let's build something to integrate with that, rather than just
I'm not sure. I don't know if I've like personally seen that, but I don't disbelieve that that's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of goes in terms of like RevOps too. So like what are your thoughts on like, this might be like a little bit general, but maybe I'll keep it general. So we tapped in a little bit, but what do you think your thoughts are on how it's going to be basically transforming go-to-market?
I mean, I think we need to step back a little and say, how are you defining RevOps?
Maybe in the same way of like, in terms of like consulting, I would say. I don't know if that's a little bit too broad still.
I think RevOps looks, so we work pretty closely with RevOps because it's often the team that's like implementing Sendspark or at least setting up automation. And I think it looks totally different at every company I've seen. Mm-hmm. And sometimes RevOps is like setting things up and they come in really late in the conversation, like the product's already been bought, we're a week into onboarding, and now RevOps is going to come and set stuff up. I think you also see the opposite where RevOps is driving and they're pushing like, hey, we want more automation, we want new tools. And in those cases, like they maybe own some numbers, but you don't always see that. And I think it's hard to know how things will change and if like RevOps will start owning more and more numbers, or if just other folks on the sales team will kind of become more technical. But I think the role is changing. I think the title's changing, you know, and I don't know if it's going to end up being like, hey, RevOps actually becomes more narrow, very, very specific, or if it becomes more broad and you know, you're kind of hiring RevOps before you're hiring a second SDR because you think that they can automate more and more.
Fair. So I wanted to wrap it up with basically what we were talking about with LinkedIn, because I know we went to RevOps, now LinkedIn, but I'm a very big fan of, again, what you're doing on LinkedIn and like the continuation of creating video content, creating posts, engaging with customers as well through LinkedIn, and making a more personalized approach. I guess that's like Sendspark is in general. The last thing, just like in terms of engagement too. So I also see that you're like commenting as well on people's LinkedIn or on people's posts on LinkedIn. Is there a strategy as well that you're using on LinkedIn in terms of commenting or sending out DMs, or again, is it just more natural?
I mean, the commenting, I have no strategy for at all. I just comment when I feel like commenting. I don't do any like automation for comments. I know that people do because I often see comments that I'm 100% sure are automated on my post. Sometimes I delete them, but otherwise I just let them ride. When it comes to connecting, though, I am pretty intentional about that. And I use a tool called Expandy. Sendspark actually integrates with them too, so you can use them to send like Sendspark video messages in the connection requests or DMs. And for that, like I try to grab, if I see a post that's relevant to Sendspark, maybe I posted it or someone posted about us or just about video in general, then what I'll do is I'll chuck that in Expandy, and then it will automatically connect with everyone that's engaged with it. And sometimes I just send an empty connection request. Other times I'll do like a Sendspark automated video, just depending on how, I don't know, my mood. And I have a reminder on my calendar every other Monday to like set that up. And then I'll do, if I see a post like between then, I'll email it to myself. So basically then on Monday, I can set up some automation and I'll just kind of go through and connect with everyone. And again, I'm not trying to like hard sell. I'm just thinking, hey, these are people that are interested in the topic. I want to connect with them, make sure they know who I am and Sendspark. So for that, I keep it up. And then I think kind of just once we're connected, you'll just see stuff organically and I don't need to push so hard.
Yeah. And it's interesting too that you can connect yourself with LinkedIn, and it was just basically attaching LinkedIn, attaching the Sendspark DM to a LinkedIn DM, I should say.
Yeah, and it's really good. Like, it's funny because I've actually been using the same video for that for like a year now. So I think that's one of the nice things. But just kind of like, hey, this is me and Sendspark, and like this is what we do. Or like hey, like just wanted to show you how you can automate videos in a minute, and it's just a short video. So I think that's been something where I'd say is helpful, and probably helpful beyond ways that I like measure it, because once people are connected, you kind of forget about it, but then people are going to see the content and come in the other channel. So I know LinkedIn automation is like a little bit risky, but I've been using Expandy for a long time, and we work with a lot of mutual customers because we have the integration, and I think it's overall net positive.
Yeah. And I guess the second last question I should say, we sent out, every time we send out connection requests, they're always like pretty intentional, I would say, but I've always seen like, maybe it's just what I've seen in my subjective experience, but anytime that you send out like a message with a note as well, or a connection request with a note, I always find that the conversion rates are like a lot lower. Have you had that experience, or have you experienced?
I've heard that so much, and then I was like, I'm going to test it, and I tested it, and for me it was higher, so I don't know. But I would say like it depends on, one, what's in the note, and two, your role. So I think, because I've heard a lot of people I've heard post it are often like they're like salespeople, and they're SDRs or they're AEs, and I think that maybe if you're like an AE and you send a note, it's just like kind of clear you're like pitching someone. So I don't know, I have theories why people have gotten that, but I'd say like run your own tests. And I'm sorry, let me clarify. I think the connection rate might have been a little bit lower or the same, but I was testing the conversions and the replies. And so that was way higher. So even like sending an empty connection request and then following up the message later, the engagement was way lower than just sending it in the first note. And they were both around 90% acceptance. So it didn't make like a big difference, but in terms of like getting responses and people actually seeing. And I think part of that too is if you're going to pitch someone, like just do it, and don't like act like you're not doing it and then do it later. Like otherwise it's just worse.
People know.
Yeah. And so you could just say, oh, I'm not going to pitch anyone. But if your job is to book meetings, or like you want to tell people what you do, then it can help to be upfront about it. But that was just me running like a test over a period of time. And in general, I'd say like see if you can run your own test and not just take on other people's data that might have a different job title, be working at a different company, or have a test that's run from 2 years ago.
Do you also get that kind of like when you, at least for myself, when I send like, when I get voice memos or when I get like video memos directly, Sendspark specifically, messages, I'm like more likely to respond to them, or I'm more likely at least to see that there was more intention that was put into it rather than like copy and paste. I was in a drip.
I mean, if it's a video, I'm almost always going to watch at least a few seconds of it. Voice messages, I used to listen to them all, and then I got so many, I kind of stopped. But unless I like something about it seems interesting, because I think with a video too, you can see a little preview, you like know what it's going to be about. But with a voice, you're like, oh, I don't know if I. And also, if you see it on like a call, with a voice message, you have to listen to it. With a video, there, you know, there's usually captions or something too, so you can kind of do it on mute, or see if it's worth your time.
Fair.
But, yeah.
All right. Well, to keep it within time as well, the last question that I usually ask everybody when they're on the live streams is that if you could give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
To 20-year-old self, I would say pick an industry you really love, because like the details of everything might end up changing, but like the industry won't. And like I feel like I like kind of accidentally end up in tech, and I love it. It's so much fun. But like marketing, sales, development, it's all going to look totally different in 10 years. So it's, you know, just try to pick an industry that you really love and be adaptive and kind of have fun working in it.
Perfect.
What's other advice you've heard for that? I'm curious. I've
heard connections. A lot of times get your connections up, go to events, put yourself out there. I've got people that say like start their business at 21, but then I'm like, I don't know if like a lot of people would be necessarily ready to start their business at 21. And
yeah. maybe graduate college. I don't know. You know, one other advice based on that is maybe do things that scare you at 20, because you don't, you know, you'll fail, but then it will stop scaring you later. So like if you don't like events, try to force yourself to go to a bunch of events at 20, because then when it really matters, when you're 30s, like you'll be like, I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm great at it. So just try to get all of your like uncomfortable things and failures and all of that like out of the way early, and you'll just be more comfortable doing anything as you get older.
Yeah. The reflection I had over this too, because I've asked it to so many people as well, and I asked it to myself too, and I was thinking if there's like a piece of advice that I would give myself, but I'm also like a piece of advice that I would actually like do, you know, because I think when you're 20, you're very different from like when you're like going to 30, 40, 50 and so on. You like change in person. So yeah. I was like, I don't know if I would be able to just even to go to events in person at 20. I think it would like really, really scare me. So I don't know, I'd at least say like just for like the basics, just send out LinkedIn requests. Maybe I'd do that.
Now, 30 a day.
I think I'd do that. But yeah, having said that, thank you so much, Bethany, for being on live with us. Bethany Stachenfeld, who is the the CEO and co-founder of Sendspark. And is there any way, by the way, that people can find you?
Yeah, either LinkedIn, just look up Bethany Stachenfeld, I'm the only one, or shoot me an email at bethany@sendspark.com.
Okay, sounds good. But no audios, though.
Send me a video. We still have a free plan for at least right now, so send me a video.
Send Bethany a Sendspark video. Perfect.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for having me. This was really great.
Thanks, Bethany. Cheers. Have a good one.
All right, you too. See ya.
And now we are off.